Hello everyone, I hope you've had a great day so far and that you're doing well. For this video we'll be going through an unboxing and review of the Premium Finish Studio Series Deluxe Class Bumblebee. So this is pretty much a very limited edition item, in fact it's probably discontinued by now, that I did pick up from Hobbylink Japan, but I will not include a link for the aforementioned discontinued product thing. But I thought I wanted to grab this and some of the other Premium Finish figures just because, one, I'm a completionist, two, to coincidentally tie up a few loose ends for the Transformers Bumblebee series I've been doing for a number of weeks now. So Bumblebee, probably Prime, and I actually do now have Thrust on me, so next few videos will pretty much just wrap that up before I move on to something different. Anyway, enough about that. So here we have the front of the box for the Premium Finish Studio Series. So Bumblebee has been the first of the release. I was going to say wave, but it's not so much a wave. It is pretty much from Takara Tomy. It wasn't really ported over by Hasbro, which is fair enough. But, you know, Takara Tomy and Premium Finish and paint jobs, they tend to do pretty okay. So, front of the box, Bumblebee in his robot mode and his Beetle mode. And I will admit, if those are colours, it does look really cool. And I am hoping there's going to be some nice array of paint apps on certain things, e.g. weapons, to really make them stand out. Otherwise, that's pretty much the front of the box. Before getting too carried away, now on the side of the box there are some nice little scenes between Bumblebee and Dropkick. Now this is not a Premium Finish Dropkick, that's pretty much the standard Deluxe Class Studio Series Dropkick, which is fine. I don't think they'll ever do Premium Finishes of them, but that's okay. And on the other side we have Bumblebee and Shatter. So it's very nice to have some of those bits of images on the side of the box. In terms of the back of the box, nothing too overly interesting. It's just some different poses of Bumblebee. And yes, it looks like this pretty much came out in 2021, so about almost 2 years. So definitely good luck to anyone who's trying to find him. I do know we're getting a series of the Beast Wars Kingdom figures being done in Premium Finish, but they're becoming a bit easier to find because they're yet to come out. Another story for another time. Anyway, now that we've done the box, I will open up the box. I'm not too sure what to expect, given that this has been from Takara Tomy itself as opposed to some of the previous Studio Series stuff, so it may not be in the same vein that we're used to. Either way, time to open up the box, see what's inside, and ultimately have a better look at Bumblebee. And with Bumblebee out of the packaging, what do we get? So, pretty stock standard with any real Studio Series release. So we get the main figure of Bumblebee, which is not surprising. We have a total of 3 accessories, 2 are weapons and 1 is his battle mask, and then the manual. So, pretty stock standard stuff. There is no backdrop, unfortunately, which could also be a good thing. So yes, it's definitely a lot more consolidated in terms of what we get. Now, in terms of the manual, so this is going to be the Japanese version of the manual, which I don't know, I kind of feel like it reads better, which is ironic given that it's in Japanese. Maybe it's the visualizations. So we have the first 10 steps here, which, to be honest, actually look like it's going to be super confusing, but that is okay. Bumblebee being Bumblebee, I've lost track of how many times I've tried to transform various Bumblebees. So that's the first 10 steps, and then from steps 11 to 22 to finish off the transformation into the alt mode. And the alt mode will have some storage for the battle mask, the mini sword, as well as the main weapon as well. So that is always a cool thing, and to be honest, if the alt mode looks like that, it'll actually be a very good looking Autobot. And then we have a few steps as to how to equip the accessories, etc. And where they can be stored, just to make sure you don't lose them. Although things like the battle mask, I don't know you'll be storing on the side of his car window. It just seems a little bit odd. But his weapons will be able to store, as well as his extra hand on his back as well. But once again, depends on your preference. So that was the manual. Definitely feels a lot easier to go through than some of the Hasbro version manuals, but that is okay. Either way, I will probably need that later. Now before we look at you, Bumblebee, your accessories. Try and bring them closer. So let's start with your battle mask. So there's Bumblebee's battle mask that he does periodically use. I am warming up to the fact that he has one. I don't mind it. I think it is quite cool. In terms of colours, it's still pretty much his main yellow, but an effort has been made to add some silver detailing and things like that, which is very cool. We have his little close combat weapon as well. Still sporting some of that yellow, but has some very nice paint applications of the silver just to break everything up, which is very cool. And watch me just drop it all over the place. And then lastly, we also have his main weapon, which is interesting. For this particular weapon, you pretty much just replace the entire arm as opposed to equipping it in the hand, which starts to happen in later releases. But very cool that there is some extra paint apps on this between the yellow, the silver, and the copper, I guess, or maybe bronze, brass, either. Very nice either way. So in terms of equipping everything, so apparently Bumblebee, your head just comes off just very easily, or in my case, not so easily. Okay, I lie. Relatively easily. If you want to look at creepy Bumblebee head, that's that. And then that is Bumblebee, the battle mask. In terms of the sword, pretty much just affixes to the forearm like they do in many versions of Bumblebee. So that is very cool. And then lastly, the blaster. Apparently, once I detach that, will go there. So there we have it. Bumblebee, pretty much battle ready between the blaster, sword, and his battle mask. Definitely not too bad looking. I actually quite like the look of it. Very nice. So I'll just take all that off. So that's pretty much a look at the accessories. I'm debating if we'll look at them again later. Maybe we'll see them again in his vehicle mode. We will see. Gosh, everything's quite fun to try and pry off. Pry off Bumblebee's head. Put his normal head back on. Try to repose Bumblebee quite nicely. Okay, so that's Bumblebee basically reposed, and we will clear out this stuff. Okay, so first things first, Bumblebee, can you stand on your own 2 feet? The answer is yes, you can. So front look at the premium finish Bumblebee. From the side, the back, we'll come back to this. The other side, and just a bit of a close-up on some of that head detailing, as well as some of the torso detailing. Very, very nice. Very cool. So in terms of Bumblebee's colours, now he's definitely not a very vibrant yellow. He's still a type of yellow. It's a bit more of a muted yellow, which I'm not sure about. I think I would have preferred a brighter yellow, but this yellow's still not too bad. Like, it's because it's not a brighter yellow, and given how much yellow is on Bumblebee, it is still quite easy on the eyes. So it's definitely not a bad shade of yellow. Otherwise, what other colors do we have? We have some light gray. We have a lot of this bronzy brass throughout the figure. A bit of black for his tires. Silver. A little bit of grey. Some dark silver. Clear windows. A bit of red for lights and things like that. So a little bit of orange as well. So overall, from a color perspective, like, he definitely looks quite adequately broken up with different colors and detailing, just to really help make him more standoutish. And in fact, his head does look very cool because he does have that blue coming through from his eyes, as well as the silver on his face to help with the detailing and things like that. So overall, from a colors perspective, he does look pretty good. And as I said, I think the only caveat could be your preference on the tone of the yellow. Now, I did mention that I'd come back to this. So Bumblebee does sport a little bit of kibble. A little bit's probably an understatement. Now, it's not too bad in the sense that you can try and fold it up and it does actually stay fairly secure, which is good. Having back kibble where it's not secure is probably a big pet peeve for me. So it's definitely not too bad. It's not the most offensive back kibble, but it is sadly there. But at least you can hold onto Bumblebee there, and because it's relatively secure, it will keep its shape. So I think that does help. The side doors and things like that, they're going to move around a little bit, but they're a bit more forgiving. And even the back of the legs, yes, he has his kibble from his Ultimo, but it's not too bad. Once you put it in the right position, it does stay relatively fixed. The only time it moves is if you accidentally push things up. So the kibble is not terrible. It's manageable, but he does have it nonetheless. Now, articulation. Let's try and speed through this. The head, oh gosh, the head will do a 360. Has a little bit of tilt up and tilt down, which is good, but at least being able to do the side to side with the head is very good. It does help with some of those dynamic poses. As for the arm, won't get a full 360 at the shoulder because it will ultimately, well, clash with some of the other parts of his robot mode, which is okay. Ultimately, he would have a 360 there. It's just not practical at this point in time. But his arm can go all the way up. I mean, his arm can also go up that way as well, which is pretty cool. Even when the arm is out like that, it does support that full 360, which is good. Standard elbow bend, nothing too unusual there. There will be some, if I can manage to do it without removing everything, there will be, oh, there will not be. I was going to say there's going to be some spin up here. No, I lie. There will be no rotation up at the upper arm. It will just be pretty much whatever's in that shoulder and the elbow, which does feel a little bit loose now. Not terribly loose, but a little bit loose. Then we do have the hand. It does have a little bit of movement, but that's probably more the transformation. Just be careful, as I've done it a few times, you can pull that hand off. So that was the arms. Definitely not terrible. Pretty much standard articulation. Maybe a little bit less than standard because there's none of that 360 swivel up at the shoulder. In terms of waist rotation, there is a little bit of side to side, which is good. So at least with some of the posing, at least you can off-center his torso either to the left or to the right. You won't be able to off-center it in full, so just bear in mind you will have a threshold to work with. Now I have noticed I keep dislodging these parts of his torso area, not intentionally, it's just where I'm placing my hands, so definitely keep that in mind. In terms of legs, so the leg will go all the way to the front. It will go that far back, mainly because things are now combining with the kibble. Bumblebee can do probably maybe 75% split. Anything more will probably pull the leg off. there will be a little bit of rotation up here at the upper side, which is very cool. So you will be able to spin that leg a little bit, unlike the arm. In terms of the knee, pretty much a standard knee, but the knee can also go forward as well. So if you want to do a bit of a forward drop kick, you can. Now, I don't think he's going to balance very well, but oh well, there you go. Actually, I lie. Bumblebee can balance a weird drop kick onto someone's head. Yes, I'm aware I used the word drop kick. So the knee's definitely not too bad, and I think that's pretty much it in terms of general articulation within the leg. As for the foot, we'll be able to do back and front as well, a little bit as well. So no side to side, which is unfortunate. So you'll just have your back and front of the foot. So if you're going to do some interesting side to side, you'll have to use the thigh area to generate some of that movement. Only downside is because of the kibble on the back. If you do that with both legs, and because there's no real rotation here, you'll probably find Bumblebee will put himself into a bit of a interesting situation with his legs. So overall, pretty average articulation. It's nothing great, it's not terrible, but because of how the figure is, I think there's some bits that definitely aren't optimized very well. So that's pretty much a look at Bumblebee, the premium finish in his robot mode. Overall, visually it does look good, the colors are good, and I think that's more of the buying power of this particular figure. It's just more for the actual look, not so much the playability. Playability is pretty average. It's definitely not the worst I've seen, but obviously you will just need to exercise a little bit of love and attention when trying to do dynamic posing and things like that, on the presumption that you do. So Bumblebee, now that we've had a look at you in your robot mode, I'm going to try and transform you. This will be interesting. Okay, and with Bumblebee now in his alt mode, I'll come back to the transformation in a little bit. I will, at this point in time, with the caveat, say I've probably not transformed him perfectly well. Mainly because you can see that he's like pretty much detabbing as pretty much everywhere right now. So I'm just going to try and keep him like this for the purposes of the video. So Bumblebee from the front, side, and as I said, try and excuse the tabbing that is detabbing. From the back, the other side, the top, and the bottom, which I will admit, the bottom actually does look quite neat, but as I said, I've probably done some type of tomfoolery with the legs, so things aren't tabbing as they should. In terms of the colors, I mean, it's pretty much going to be Bumblebee's yellow through and through, which I will admit, as an entire alt mode, actually isn't too bad. It's not very harsh on the eyes, it actually does look aesthetically pleasing, and yeah, it's actually definitely not too bad at all. Plus you do have a bit of the black from his tires and the various locations of grey to help break up some of that yellow, as well as the clear windows. Definitely not a bad looking alt mode, and as I said, just watch me struggle to keep him in his alt mode. Definitely very nice detailing, does look very cool, and I actually have attached everything into his alt mode, so his blaster, his sword, and his battle mask actually stores away quite nicely. Yes, some of them are a little bit noticeable, so you can see the tips of the battle mask from the front. If you look at it from the side, you will see the sword. The blaster is actually pretty well hidden, which is actually a very nice relief. So yes, bear that in mind, but at the same time it is nice to at least have all of that stuff attached while in the vehicle mode. Your alternative would be to put this in like little Ziploc bags and things like that, just to make sure they stay safe. So from a vehicle perspective, he does look pretty cool. Articulation, being a vehicle, is pretty much just his wheels, which at this point in time aren't working as very good wheels. Possibly because I've mistransformed him, to possibly because the sword is there and it's obviously adding unnecessary friction. So overall, Ultra Mode, yeah, definitely friction. Ultra Mode, definitely not too bad looking. Now as for the transformation, I'll just leave Bumblebee there. So the transformation started out okay. It is one of those weird cases of this section just basically folds out on itself, which is not really surprising. The side panels that do the doors and things like that basically just fold out and become that lengthy panel again, which is actually not too bad. So the first few steps, not too bad. The steps that have probably led me to become, I don't want to say confused, but have probably caught me unaware. It's probably just getting his legs in the right orientation. So, and I have a feeling his legs are probably not in a very good orientation, just looking at some of this leg with some of the unnecessary curling of the upper leg. There is some tabbing in there to basically secure the legs together. It's not too bad, but it doesn't feel as securely tabbed. And then you have to tab that into parts of his back waist, I guess. And then the feet just need to be put into a particular alignment so you can basically put the shell of the Volkswagen around it. And as you can see, I do feel that in concept the tabbing should actually work very, very well. I mean, even now, whilst it's not perfectly tabbed, you can definitely see where the tabbing is supposed to actually work in your favor. So I think the tabbing conceptually is supposed to work very well, and it is quite possible that my first transformation of Bumblebee has just been absolutely terrible. And I say that with a lot of first-time transformations, and subsequent transformations might get a little bit better, especially when I start doing the shorts. So yes, definitely it's those last 10 odd steps I think I found were a little bit interesting. Some of it does become intuitive to the point where you just start pushing things into various positions and just try and force the outer shell to pretty much just tab into place, which, to be honest, is what I pretty much did. May or may not have been the correct thing to do, especially for the first time. So transformation, it's a little bit clunky, but I think it has the potential to be done right if the actual transformation process is followed as intended. So we've had a look at the Ultra Mode, we've talked about the transformation, what little articulation it has, and things like that. So definitely, I mean, visually, it's actually a very nice looking Ultra Mode, don't get me wrong. And I think this would be definitely one of those types of Ultra Modes that if you could get everything to tab really nicely, I'd be very tempted, after banging the camera stand, just to keep him in his Alt Mode. In saying that, I do have another Bumblebee, so one could stay in Robot Mode, one could stay in Alt Mode. Potentially the Standard Studio series will go into Alt Mode, and this one will go into Robot Mode. Just bring back the manual. So, final thoughts on the Premium Finish Studio Series Deluxe Class Bumblebee. From the Robot Mode perspective, now I wish I had my original Studio Series Bumblebee as a point of comparison, so I'm going to have to do this loosely off memory, which is not going to be great. But visually, the Robot Mode does look very nice. The colors, the paint apps and everything, it just really helps bring out some of the detailing, especially even with some of the detailing in the head when you switch between the normal head and the battle mask. So from a Robot Mode perspective, visually, it does look very good. Articulation, I think, has probably lost a few points there. It's going to be okay, but I think when you move into the dynamic posing, I think the legs are going to prove to be a bit fickle. And I think the arms will also be a bit fickle in the way of trying to get certain poses. You'll get a good number. I don't think you'll get them all, just because there's some limitations in what articulation is there. And for the legs in particular, the kibble on the back of the legs and the lack of any side to side on the feet, I think is where things will get a little bit under. But overall, I think they will still manage some solid poses. Just don't do anything too ridiculous. Included accessories for the robot mode are very nice. It is very nice that some of them can be stored away in the robot mode as well. Not that I really covered that during this video. So, robot mode, definitely not too bad. Transformation, as I mentioned before, it's a little bit clunky in certain areas. I think it has the potential to be done well and does work properly. I think it's just one of those, practice makes perfect. Do it a few times, just get a better feel for where everything goes. Hopefully everything will just tab absolutely perfectly and the vehicle mode will look perfect. That's my thoughts on the transformation. The alt mode, once again, I actually do quite like the alt mode. I think if everything tabbed together nicely, I would like it even more. And the reason why it's just a little bit unsightly is because you can see where the shell and panels are basically detaching from each other. So it does create that unfortunate little oddity when looking at it. But I do like the colors. It's definitely easy on the eyes. I think a brighter yellow could have been just a little bit harsher. But this one's definitely very nice. And the extra added colors here and there as, I mean, they're not all over the place, but they're enough just to break up some of that yellow. So alt mode does look very nice, and I would actually strongly consider having a Bumblebee in the alt mode, just to show that off. And as I said earlier, now that I have two of these, granted one is in storage in a crate, I can pretty much facilitate that. In terms of the figure overall, now as a premium finish, and once again this is based off memory, I think I would actually appreciate having a copy of this, just because I think Takara Tomy do make a bit more of an effort with their paint applications on the figures compared to Hasbro. In saying that, do not try and literally go paying an arm and a leg plus some to try and find it. It's at least 2 years old. It will definitely be tough, so you'd almost have better luck just finding the original Studio Series Bumblebee. The colors and the paint apps will be different, yes, but the pricing may be a bit more flexible. I still think he's a very cool figure to have in the collection, given that this is pretty much the Bumblebee we had for the Transformers Bumblebee live action movie. Yes, I know there's the B127 and the Jeep mode, but they were very transitory, whereas this is pretty much majority of Bumblebee for the actual movie. So it's very nice to have him with his very G1 inspired alt mode. So if you're definitely a fan of Bumblebee, if you're able to ever get a Studio Series one of them, I would say go for it. He's definitely not a terrible figure. He has his faults, but he still has some positives as well. Autobots in general, if you're a big fan of trying to get all the figures for the Transformers Bumblebee live action movie, it's definitely a nice addition to the collection. And I did say there's about 3 or 4 different versions of Bumblebee for one movie, which is obviously be nice to showcase as well. So for a premium finish version, I definitely wish anyone luck who's trying to acquire one, if you haven't already. And for those who really don't care if it's a premium finish or not, definitely good luck trying to get the original Studio Series Bumblebee. Although I think there was a buzzworthy re-release as well, so it may not be as difficult, but regardless for either figure, good luck, really. As for the video, I think I will leave it there. It's a little bit longer than I was expecting, but that's okay. It's been a little while since I've done one of these. But yeah, I definitely had a little bit of fun with Bumblebee. And I'm sure when I do his short, hopefully things will go okay and I don't progressively drive myself to insanity. And I do say that in saying that the recording for this unboxing and review is been done ahead of the short, so there is a bit of a time gap between the two. Thank you very much for watching this video. Feel free to leave a like or comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the content. All of this does help support the channel, and I do greatly appreciate it. Extra content can also be found on my Instagram account. Link to that is in the description below. Stay safe and take care, and I will catch you all in a future video, whether it's the final wind down of the Transformers Bumblebee unboxing and reviews, or if it's something else Transformers related, or something else on the channel. Until the next time.